Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. So this is Colony, Part 1, New York Colony, Chapter 16, Lulu. I dug into my bags, taking out my leather pants, dark red blouse, leather vest, and a new pair of red patent leather stilettos from our shopping trip. I grinned as I changed into the outfit. "If you're wearing that, I'm wearing my gi," Jenny said. "Might as well. I'm pretty sure they'll know we're coming anyway. Don't take any ID, though. We can leave our tablets and wristcoms here. I'll have Daddy send them to the jewelry shop." "Right," she said. I grabbed my makeup and went into the bathroom. Jenny joined me and put her hair up in a top knot while I lined my eyes with black eyeliner and painted my lips bright red. Jenny watched me as I touched up the rest of my makeup. She raised an eyebrow. "You're going to wear makeup to a fight?" "Correction. War paint. A lot of men like Hector and Paolo underestimate women, especially those who they view as excessively girly. I get a kick out of watching their minds explode when I fuck them up. Besides, I might as well kill in style." I put my hair up in a tight bun, gave one last check of my makeup, then said, "All right, now I need to ask Daddy for some toys. Grab the bag." We put extra clothes in Jenny's gym bag, then Jenny picked up the bag from the bed. I grabbed my purse and led her downstairs to where Daddy was waiting for us. He didn't say anything, but just motioned to us to follow him to the side of the house opposite the lounge. We went past the dungeon door, and I grinned, thinking about the other weekend. But when he opened a door 2 doors away, I squealed in joy. "Oh, Daddy, this is beautiful!" When Jenny came in, she said, "Wow." There were so many different types of guns along the walls, both pulse and projectile, along with edge weapons, grenades, flashbangs, and some other weapons I didn't recognize, but Jenny obviously did. She immediately went and took a look at some of the edged weapons. Olka gave a chuckle. "Take what you need, pet. There's bags and ammo in the drawers under the weapons. Do you need anything else, Jenny?" Jenny shook her head as she admired the weapons in the room. "Impressive collection, Mr. Olka." "Thank you," he said, pleased with the praise. "You can take whatever you like." "No need, Mr. Olka, but thanks," she said. Daddy looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Really, Daddy, she only needs her sword. Believe me." He looked impressed. I didn't waste any more time admiring Daddy's excellent collection of toys. I pulled out a bag and threw a couple of pistols, a few flashbangs, and a load of ammo in it. I picked up 2 thin, needle-bladed weapons and put them through my bun, then grabbed a knife with a thigh sheath. I grabbed a new tablet and a lockpick set and added them to my purse. Then put my purse in the bag. I zipped it up and said, "Oh, we could use a car, Daddy." He nodded, leading us back into the hall. He motioned us down a set of nearby stairs to a garage under the house. I keep a couple of old air cars around for situations like this. It's been a while since I've needed them, but they're in good shape. Olka stopped next to an old blue air car, palmed it open, set the controls for me, and popped the trunk. We put our bags in it and closed it. Olka got out of the driver's seat and came over to me. "It's already programmed for my penthouse in the city. I programmed your biometrics for the doors. The building is in the city center, so you should be able to get to the Kozilezi building easily from there." I looked up into his silver eyes and said, "Thank you, Daddy." He took my hair by the bun, careful of the needles, pulled my head back and kissed me hard, biting my lip as he pulled away. "Don't get killed, pet," he ordered, then turned and walked back into the house. I took a few deep breaths to recover, then got in the driver's seat. Jenny, who had gotten in the car while Daddy was saying goodbye to me, said, "You two make an interesting pair." "Yes, well, he and I are 2 of a kind, really. Plus, he can admit when he's wrong." I put the car in manual drive and sped off as we left Olka's land and made our way to the capital. Olga's penthouse was at the edge of the bombed area of the capital. It was late afternoon when we reached the building, and you could clearly see the devastation that the bomb had wrought from the apartment's windows. Jenny was staring out at the wreckage while I reconfigured the tablet with my bots. A map came up showing dots where people I had tagged were. Jenny and I were together, and Marcus's dot was at the spaceport, as I expected. The fourth dot was Joseph's. "Fuck," I said. Jenny turned away from the window. "What?" "Joseph's in the Kozolezi building." "How do you know?" "I put a tracker on him." I wiggled my hand. "I can shed tracking bots." "Did you put one on me?" "Yes, and I'm sorry, but you would have known I'd do that if you'd been briefed about working with folks from the library. But from what I was told, you left pretty quickly after you got your first in." Jenny was quiet for a moment, then said, "It's okay since it's you, and I know you." "Right. Anyway, I think it's time to head out. We need to go save Joseph from himself." Jenny turned to look at the bomb site one last time, then nodded. "Let's go." Joseph. The late afternoon sun was illuminating the lobby of the Kozolezi building as I stormed through the doors, pulling out my pulse pistol. The security guard at the desk froze. "I will see Hector Kozolezi now. What floor?" The man didn't say anything. I came up and put the pistol in his face. "What floor is he on?" "He's not here," the man said. "Bullshit. He's always here on Tuesdays while the boss is at dinner." "What floor?" I said, putting the pistol against his temple. He didn't flinch, but then his eyes looked at something behind me. I turned around to see another security guard behind me. "Shit," I thought, as his fist hit my jaw and knocked me out. "Wake up," a voice shouted at me as cold water shocked me awake. I blinked the water out of my eyes, gasping. My eyes finally started to focus. I was in an office, tied hand and foot to a chair. Hector was standing in front of me with the security guard that had knocked me out. "So," he said, dangling the data key in his hands, "has Anna's little pet come to switch sides? I took a look at this while you were out. This is really interesting data you brought me. Not that I didn't know about this myself, since I run the whole operation on this planet." He looked at me for a moment and said, "Although you're not really Anna's toy, are you?" He grinned. I struggled, trying to free my hands and feet. "Fuck, I hate plastic zip ties," I thought. I stared at Hector, my anger focusing on him and nothing else. I said nothing. "No, you're one of Olga's, and I know he's looking for some of the slaves I bought from the New Harmonists. I'm a little sad that those folks are gone, since I think they had some interesting ideas, especially about brown people like you. But, well, they were pretty fanatical, and fanatics are stupid. They got what they deserved. But you don't want to hear about the villain's speech, do you?" While he was talking, I kept twisting my hands in the ties, trying to get out of them. I could feel them starting to cut into my wrists, but I didn't care. I only wanted one thing: to kill Hector. "What did you come here for? Let's see the last thing that was looked up on this key, shall we?" Hector went to his desk, put the key in the slot, and tapped the desk screen a few times. "Oh, I see," he said with a sneer. "No, you're not here for either of them, are you?" Maurice's profile appeared on a screen on the wall. I remember her well. I think I remember her screaming for Joseph when I took her. I take it that's you? "His name was Maurice," I said through clenched teeth. "Whatever. I didn't care then, and I don't care now. I sold her to a friend of mine. Too bad she ended up in the river. She must have really pissed him off." I couldn't see much through the red haze of my anger. All I wanted to do was get at Hector's throat. Hector stood up and came over to me, grabbing me by the hair. "You I get to use a much better way. Now I can finally get rid of Anna Yeremayeff because I know that she will come here to find you. You get to be bait. And then you and Anna will join your friend in whatever afterlife you believe in. That hit me like a slap, draining away some of my red-hot rage. Fuck, I thought. Then I remembered who Anna would have with her and started to laugh hysterically. Hector backhanded me, then knocked me and the chair I was tied to over. I kept laughing. "Shut up, motherfucker," he said, and kicked me in the stomach. The air whooshed out of my lungs, and I stopped laughing, but I couldn't help grunting out, "You're a dead man, asshole. You don't know who you're dealing with. They already cut your hand off once, dumbass." That just made him angrier. Hector vented his rage on me. As he beat me, I started to realize that I wouldn't make it. I didn't really care, since Hector was going to die. It wasn't my hand that would take him, but he would be dead by the end of the day anyway. I know Jenny will keep her promise to me. The man finally stopped kicking me, and I cracked an eye open. To my surprise, I could see Maurice, as beautiful as the day I'd met him, standing behind Hector, illuminated by the last of the sunlight coming through the office windows. They had a sad smile, but their face gave me some peace while my blood started to pool on the carpet. I felt my soul lifting above my body as Hector went back to his desk. He tapped a button, but there was no answer. "Well, it looks like Anna's here." He grabbed a gun from under his desk, went over to my body, and shot me in the head. The light in the room intensified until all I could see was Maurice standing in light. "Come on, lover. Let's go home," he said, as he held out a hand. I smiled and clasped his fingers. The light surrounded us both. The world disappeared, and finally, there was only us. Chapter 17. Lulu. "He's still in there, on the 28th floor, I said, checking my map as we got to the Kozolezi building. "I'm pretty sure Hector knows we're coming anyway. He's been waiting for a real confrontation for years, the bastard." Jenny nodded. "Direct approach, then?" "Yes. He wants us to come to him, so we might as well let him get in some of his jollies before he dies." "You're way too nice," the Masashi warrior said. "We take out all the guards on the way up?" I suggested. "We were gonna do that anyway." Fuck it, let's just go. Joseph will need our help." Jenny didn't reply to that, so I pulled out a loaded pistol from the gun bag. We turned the corner and strolled up casually to the doors of the Kozolezi building. I opened the doors to the lobby. There was a security guard at the desk. I didn't bother talking to him, just shot him in the head. Surprisingly, no other guards came out to play. "Yep, he definitely knows," Jenny said quietly. I nodded, and we went over to the elevators. I pushed the call button, and we waited. Jenny was still as a statue, with a strange look on her face. It was almost as if she wasn't quite herself. I wonder if it was one of her spirits or something. To be honest, I didn't really care, as long as it was on our side, and if it made her a bit more scary, well, even better. The elevator opened to a security guard with a surprised look on his face. Before he could react, Jenny grabbed him and pulled him into the hallway. I just waited, holding the door, while she grabbed him by the collar and said, "When you wake up, you should go home and think about going into another line of work." She punched him, knocking him out, then stepped into the elevator behind me, breathing a little heavily. I let the door closed, pushed the button for the 28th floor. "You definitely are efficient," I said. Jenny shrugged. "The big ones are easy." I grinned. The elevator was a bit slow, just as we finally reached the 28th floor and got out. We heard her leg crack. Jenny turned to me. That was a gunshot, a projectile gun. There was sadness in her eyes. "Fuck," I said, frowning. We ran down the hall. Jenny reached the door first, flinging it open. I heard yelling and scuffling, and when I came in, the guard was on the floor, and Jenny had her sword to Hector's throat. On the floor at Hector's feet was Joseph, or what was left of him. I figured Jenny had Hector in hand, so I went over to the guard and put my heel on his balls. "I've got the guard covered," I said. Jenny didn't give any indication that she heard me, her focus completely on Hector. "Drop the gun," she said, deadly calm. Hector dropped it, glaring furiously at Jenny. "Where's your uncle?" Hector spat at Jenny's feet. "I'm not telling you anything." "Impressive. You finally learned to keep your mouth shut after all these years," she said with a leer, pushing the point of the sword a little further. "What the fuck are you talking about? I never met you until a couple of months ago," he squeaked. I kept myself from laughing. "But you didn't stop learning how to be a bully, it seems. Once I saw you again, I remembered you well. Oh, yes. I remember you and Demir always teasing me, tripping me in the hallways at school, setting your little gang after me, punching me in the stomach until I threw up. The only reason you two didn't kill me was because you were too scared of Paolo." Jenny hadn't told me this. Now I wanted to kill him even more, and I really wanted Paolo's hide. It took a lot not to pounce on Hector. I settled for grinding the guard's balls with my heel. He was just coming awake, and he whined in pain. "Now you don't just bully people, you sell them too." Hector stared at Jenny, confused for a few breaths, then exclaimed, "Julian? Where's my father?" she asked again. "You can't be Julian," Hector said. "Uncle said he died." "No, I didn't die. I became the person I always should have been. And now I can stop you and your slave trafficking, just like I took down New Harmony's government." Hector stared at her again, face pale, then whispered, "Fuck." "I'm done with you," she said, and swung her sword. Hector's eyes widened in shock, and after a couple of seconds, the two halves of his body fell to the floor with a wet plop. Jenny kneeled down, cleaned her sword on his jacket, then stared at the corpse, shaking her head. She moved over to Joseph's corpse, put an arm on the shoulder, and looked like she was saying a prayer. Jenny, I hate to interrupt, but we do need to get the data key and get the data off their computer," I said. The guard below me squirmed. "I'll get Paulo's whereabouts from this gentleman here." Jenny stood up. "Yes, I'll need a minute." "Oh, not a problem." I pulled a needle out of my bun and pulled the guard up by his shirt and held the needle to his eyeball. "So, since it's Tuesday, I'm assuming Paulo's having dinner at one of his restaurants, yes?" "Oh, which one, sweetie?" I drawled. The man said nothing. I sighed. I hate the stubborn ones. "Excuse me, Jenny, but I need to take this one out in the hall." "All right," Jenny said. "I'll be done in, say, 5 minutes." "Fantastic," I said, and grabbed the man by the crotch. He sucked in a breath, and because he was so tall, I didn't even have to reach too far. I dragged him out into the hall, digging my nails through his pants. "Now, where were we? Oh, yes, which restaurant is Paulo at, Snookums?" "Fucking bitch," the guard snarled. "Yes, but that was the wrong answer," I said lightly. I gripped him tighter. "You may want to rethink that," I said, brandishing my needle. "I work as a professional dominatrix at times, Cupcake, and I know all the right places to put this needle. Now, one more time, which restaurant?" I pushed the needle through his pants. Amit's," he croaked, trying to lean away from me. I didn't let him. I jabbed the needle all the way through, and then let him go. He fell to the floor, curled up in a ball. You bitch!" "That was for calling me a bitch, you asshole," I said, as a crash came from the office. I went back in and saw that Jenny had cut the desk in half with her blade and was making short work of the computer inside it. "I suppose that's one way to handle your anger issues?" "I've got a lot of anger to work out," Jenny shrugged. "And it makes sure that if they try and get any information out of this desk, it'll be that much more difficult." She threw me the data key, and I put it in the bag with the guns. When she finally stopped, she walked around the debris and looked at Joseph's body. What should we do about Joseph's body?" Us? Nothing. Olka will take care of it, I said. She frowned, but turned away. Do we know where to go next? I nodded and walked back to the elevator. The guard was still in the hallway, groaning as we passed him. Jenny looked at me with an eyebrow raised. He won't be having adult fun time with anyone for a while, which, since he's one of Hector's, he deserves. Anyway, Paolo's at a restaurant called Amit's, having his weekly dinner with his lieutenants. Hector always stays here to hold the fort, which is why this is so easy. Right, Jenny said. Let's get on with it. Hello, Monsieur Mav. It's good to see you back again. Do you have a reservation tonight? Asked the maitre d' of Amit's when we walked in. I gave him my best dazzle smile. Not exactly. I walked around his podium and proceeded to straighten his bow tie. I'm looking for Paolo Cosolezzi. He's in the private dining room, right? Well, Jenny pulled out her sword a few inches, and I pulled on his tie sharply. Yes, ma'am, he said in a strangled voice. I let go, and Jenny sheathed her sword. I leaned closer to him, dropped a gold tip chit in his jacket pocket, and said, Now, what you're going to do is tell any other customers and your staff to leave for the rest of the evening. Do it quickly and quietly. Do you understand? The man nodded. How many is he dining with, by the way? 4 others, ma'am. Thank you. Off you go now. Shoo, I said, and gave him a pat on the ass. He jumped as if I pinched him, and tried very hard not to run as he moved toward the open dining room tables. Was that really necessary? Jenny asked. I'm just confirming my reputation, I replied. Let's get some water. I led the way down the columns of tables, closer to the door of the private dining room. I grabbed a pitcher of water from one of the tables that had just been vacated and poured 2 glasses of water. I handed Jenny one. Thanks, she said. Are you ready for this? I asked. She nodded. He needs to go. I looked at her, realizing that she was far too calm. It was one thing to kill Hector, a detested cousin who was enslaving other humans. It was another thing entirely to kill her own father. This wasn't about protection for her. This was about finishing what she started 10 years ago. The analyst in me sized up the situation, and I knew what needed to be done. The dining room had finally emptied. I heard footsteps approach us, and I looked up to see the maitre d' go into the private dining room to take their last drink orders. When he came out, I pointed my chin to the door, and he walked away quickly to the exit, closing the door behind him. I opened the gum bag and took out my purse. I pulled out my tablet, put my hand on it, and 4 nanopickets rose out of the bag. I programmed them with facial recognition and instructions to kill everyone in the room who wasn't Paolo. Then stood up and went to the door of the dining room. Jenny followed me silently. Kill, I told the pickets. Suddenly there were 4 square holes in the door, a brief shout, and then silence. Return, I said, and the bloody pickets came over to my hand. Jenny didn't wait for me. She opened the door and I followed her in. What the fuck is this? Asked Paolo. Jenny had him at sword point. The man wasn't stupid, so he stayed still. Jenny didn't say anything, just stood there practically quivering with hate and anger. Paolo looked at her, then narrowed his eyes. So, Julian, he drawled, are you going to kill me like you did those priests on New Harmony? I was rather impressed with your decimation of the council, actually. You never showed any talent for killing when you were younger, no matter how hard I tried. Maybe I should have skipped the computer lessons and put you in karate. I came up slowly to Jenny's side. She knew I was there, but her eyes didn't leave her father's. She was breathing hard, a mix of emotions on her face. My name, father, is Jenny, she said quietly. Paolo laughed. I don't care what you call yourself now. You're an abomination. I knew it when you were a child. You were never my real son. You should have died, not to mirror. Jenny pushed the sword against the man's throat, and a tiny drop of blood appeared on his skin. I could see her fighting herself, and I knew that if she killed him, she would break herself, and maybe even break her vows. No, I thought, not when I can help her. I reached out slowly and grabbed the wrist that held the sword. You can't do this, Jenny. I have to, Lulu. All the things he's done to me, to other people. No, I said. Doing this will hurt you more than you know. Let me help you. Put down the sword and wait for me outside. Silently, I ordered the pickets to mark Paolo with knives out. When they were in position, I let go of her wrist. Jenny withdrew her sword and sheathed it. Paolo watched us calmly. Jenny looked at Paolo, then looked at me, bowed, and turned towards the door. Coward! He shouted at her back, laughing. She stiffened for a moment, then walked out the door, closing it behind her. She never turned around. Good girl, I thought. Now that Jenny had left the room, I gave Paolo my biggest murder smile. Paolo tried to reach for his wrist comb, but I ordered one of the pickets to slice his wrist. He cried out in pain. Naughty, naughty Paolo, I drawled, with a smile on my face. I went behind him and pulled him and the chair away from the table. I took my other needle out of my bun and held it to his face. Now here's the thing, Paolo. Jenny has a heart and a conscience and more courage than you will ever have. And if she'd kill you, she would have been hurt, no matter how much you deserve to die. That is unacceptable to me. She has too much potential to be ruined by you. Me, on the other hand, well... I shoved the needle through his crotch and into the chair. Paolo screamed, which sent tingles up my spine. Me, I love this shit. I have no conscience, none whatsoever, and it's been a long time since I've been able to really get my sociopathic and sadistic jollies on, and you've hurt one too many of the people I consider my friends. I really, really don't like it when anyone hurts my friends, and frankly, Paolo, I've never liked you. You sold the colony out to fanatics, and you've been selling kids and women to the highest bidder. Also, Jenny's told me some of the things you did to her as a kid, and you just don't do those kind of things to a kid, Paolo. Hurting kids is a no-no. I put my heel next to the needle and ground it in. He screamed again, a shrill wail that made me smile. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, you even got your wife and kid killed in the bombing. I kicked him in the chest, and the chair fell over, knocking him to the floor. He tried to reach for the needle to pull it out so he could get out of the chair. You are so naughty, Paolo. Picket, right hand, I ordered, and the closest picket to his right hand sliced it off, making him scream again. I grinned like a kid in a candy store, and Paolo finally looked terrified. I smiled even wider. You're fucking crazy, he said, with delicious terror in his voice. Yes, I know. Clinically. I pulled the knife from my thigh sheath. You bleed quite nicely, Paolo. Shall we give the coroner a lovely little Paolo puzzle to put together later? I giggled. Or maybe we'll go with blood art. Make some nice designs to look at while they do the autopsy. I cut a snaking line along his jawline, making him groan and squirm. Yes, art, why not? I giggled as I stood over him. He screamed again as I began cutting off his clothes, none too gently, and then cutting lovely designs in his chest. I didn't even notice when he stopped screaming, since I was too high to see anything else. When I finally killed him, my whole body shuddered in orgasm. I walked out of the dining room to find Jenny sitting at a table near the front door. She turned out most of the lights and put the close sign on the door and taken charge of the weapons bag. I strolled up to the table feeling languid and happy. Jenny stared at me, her red-rimmed eyes wide. She handed me a pitcher of water and a pile of napkins. I nodded in thanks and began to clean off my face and hands, my weapons, and the pickets. When everything was clean enough, I fixed my hair, sliding the needles back in. I put the pickets in my purse, then stowed everything in the gun bag. I pulled out the tablet and zipped up the bag. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it in one go. You really are a sociopath. And a psychopath. It's easy to forget sometimes. I smiled. I work hard on that. Besides, I like you. In fact, you're almost like a sister. Though, unlike me, you have empathy and a conscience. Jenny nodded, then looked at her hands. Thank you, she said, for stopping me. I had to. He doesn't get to hurt my sister from beyond the grave. You're not totally lacking in empathy, she said, nodding, and wiped her eyes. I grinned. Don't tell anyone that. Well, now that's done. We need to get out of here. We'll go back to Oga's place, change quickly, and grab the car. We need to get off planet before the colony cops start poking around. Jenny nodded. How are we going to do that? They'll be looking for us by morning and close the spaceport. You'll see, I said with a grin, picked up the bag, and led the way out of the restaurant. Chapter 18. Jenny. Lulu tapped the tablet. I'm calling the car. After a few minutes, Olga's car pulled up and the trunk popped open. We put our bags in and got in. Lulu tossed me the tablet. Can you disable the tracking and speed limits? Yeah, I'll need a couple of minutes. Sirens began to wail. Well, fuck. I guess going to Olga's is out. That guard must have called in Kozolizzi's cops right after we left. Lulu punched the manual drive, closing the doors and trunk. I'll do my best, Jenny, but I can't promise you 2 minutes. Right, I said. I accessed the dev mode on the tablet and hooked it up to the car. Lulu started driving like a madwoman, weaving in and out of traffic and turning every few seconds. Attention! You are violating capital traffic laws. Your vehicle will be stopped in 1 minute if you do not slow to 30 kilometers per hour. Fuck that, Lulu said. Jenny? Almost got it, I said, finally finding the car's comm system. Attention! You are violating... The police announcement shut off as I finally shut down the external comms for the car. I also shut off the GPS transmitter. Okay, Lulu, I hope you know where to go because I had to shut off the GPS, I said, turning off the tablet. Nicely done, Jenny, she laughed, and toggled for more speed. I held on to the door handles, even though I knew it wouldn't do anything. I hope that Olga doesn't mind that I'm going to kill the engine, she said. You're the one who's going to have to explain about the car the next time you see him. Lulu let out another giggle. Oh, I'm sure he'll punish me severely. I raised an eyebrow and tried not to look at the speedometer. You're way too happy about that. Yes, well, normally subbing is my thing, but Olga is kind of magic. I'll take your word for it, I said, then looked in the side mirror. Cops behind us. I see them. Hang on, she said, and set the speed to maximum. Cops disappeared as we headed into the burrows. She kept turning seemingly at random through the streets, narrowly avoiding pedestrians who didn't get out of the way fast enough. Finally, we came out of the burrows into a much more industrial area. At the edge of the industrial park, she said, Turn on the tablet, now! Hold it up for me! I did as I was told, and she slammed her hand on the tablet, and I could see a gate opening in the distance, coming up fast. Lulu, I said. Quiet, I have to concentrate for this. With a hand on the tablet and the other on the wheel, she somehow managed to tilt the car and get us through the gate without crashing it. She righted the car when we came through, and the gate started to close again. That should give us a few minutes to get going. What is this place? I asked. A Yaratech warehouse that isn't used all that much. Makes a useful place to put things, she replied. And we're leaving from here. Yep. She crossed the parking lot and stopped in front of a set of double doors of what looked like an office area. The security guard stood up from his desk as we approached. The air car dropped to the ground as the engines finally died. Lulu popped the trunk. Grab the bags, she ordered. I did as I was told, while she ran to the door and put her hand on the palm plate. It made a pinging sound. Code red, she said, and the guard's eyes went wide in surprise. He opened the door for us. Yes, ma'am. Do you need assistance? No, I can handle things from here. You should get out of here, though. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, go home, now. Your superiors will contact you soon. Yes, ma'am, he said, and then left the building. Come on, Jenny, she said. Time to get off this dirt ball. Lulu led me past the front desk and some offices, through another set of double doors, and into a large warehouse. There were a lot of large wooden boxes covered in dust, along with several large cargo containers. Lulu made for one of the central cargo containers and put her hand on it. The end of the container opened. "That's a demon?" I said, surprised. "Yep. It was brought here a long time ago for the first of Yeremaev's children as a last means of escape. It's actually built into the cargo container." She went inside and motioned me to come in. "I'll explain more later, but right now we have to haul ass. Stow the bags in one of the lockers, would you? Then fill up the gel tank. We're going to have to pull a lot of G to get past their jets. Hopefully we won't run into Fleet, but who knows? They're not too keen on anything Survey right now." "No kidding. I heard they went after Hades for 3 months after he dropped you all off." Lulu laughed. Hades was annoyed, but when he started leading them past Earth, they gave up. She sat in the pilot's seat and started punching controls. The door of the demon closed. I stowed our gear, then pressed the button to retract the lid on the gel tank. It began to fill right away. I pulled out the gel suits, stripped to my underwear, and put one on. "Pulled out a suit for you," I told Lulu. "Thanks, but I won't need it. The bots will protect me while we're lifting off out of atmosphere. I'll join you once we break for a flat space. It's going to be tricky getting out of here. They probably figured out by now that we might have some way off planet." She kicked off her heels towards me. "Can you stow those?" I grabbed the shoes and put them with our bags, barely closing the locker as the demon rumbled. Lulu, how are we getting out of the warehouse to launch?" As I put the extra suit back in its place. "We're not." "What?" "We're going through the roof. Trust me, it'll be fine. Get in the tank," she yelled over the noise. I did as I was told, holding on to the straps in the tank as the green gel rose around me. Suddenly, loud guitar music with an androgynous-sounding singer filled the cabin. I didn't mind the beat, but it was loud. "Who is this?" I yelled as the G-force of liftoff pulled me to the bottom of the tank. "An artist called Prince. Never fly without listening to him. Don't you like classical?" I said. Lulu just laughed. I'm in a demon being piloted by a happily sated sociopath, I thought. Please, any gods who will listen, get us back to a survey ship safely. I heard a chuckle in the back of my head with a wave of reassurance. I tried to settle into the gel, which was only halfway up my body. Of course they send jets with missiles. Computer, countermeasures for the missiles, but don't destroy the jets. Understood, said the computer, and there was a popping sound from the roof. What was that? Nanopickets. Shit! Computer, manual flight control, Lulu yelled, and I could see a joystick come up from the control panel. Time to the exosphere? 5 minutes. Crap! Hang on, Jenny! I have to try and outsmart these stupid jets. The demon pitched back and forth. When I looked at the pilot's view screen, I could see colony fighter jets with missiles coming from all sides. The way that Lulu was weaving the demon between them started to make me nauseous, so I leaned back in the tank and closed my eyes, holding tightly to the tank straps, saying prayers to all the gods I could think of. The sound in the cabin changed as we left atmosphere. And they had time to activate the orbital defenses. Great. Computer, take out the orbital defenses. The computer acknowledged the command, and there was another pop from the roof. I opened my eyes to see Lulu had taken her hands off the joystick and was tapping on the controls. Right, computer, set autopilot for flat space with initial 18G burst on my mark. Acknowledged, said the computer. Lulu got up from the pilot's seat and carefully came over to the tank. She pulled out the tank covers, helped me unroll mine until just my head was sticking out, and put on my breather for me. I nodded to her when it was on, and right. Getting into the other side of the tank, she pulled her cover around her like she was tucking herself in for bed, leaving enough room to stick her hand out for her own breather. Computer, 10-second delay, then mark. She quickly put her breather on, gave the thumbs up, and pulled her tank cover closed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Accelerating, said the computer. The world began to narrow, and then there was blackness. Jenny, said a voice. Or? I tried to say, but something was around my mouth. Oh, the breather. I opened my eyes, and Lulu was standing above me, wrapped in a bathrobe. We've decelerated for a while. So far, we don't have anyone following us from the planet side, but they probably already sent out messages to Fleet to look for us. Anyway, you can come out of the tank now. It'll take us a few days to get to flat space from here, and we'll probably do another 10G burst again later. No need to sit in the tank, getting all wrinkled up. She helped me take off the breather, pulled off the cover, and half lifted me out of the tank. You should take a shower, she said, pointing to the tiny hygiene closet. Lulu went to the pilot's console and made a show of checking the readouts. I was grateful for that. I pulled the gel suit off, set it in its niche for cleaning, and gratefully got in the shower. When I finished, there was a towel on a robe on a hook waiting for me. Lulu was at the food printer dialing in something. She finished, then turned with 2 drink bags, holding one out for me. "Nutrition drink," she said. "I have some solid food coming." I nodded and took the drink, grateful for the moisture. It tasted like cake. "Not bad," I said. Sunny's always had an extensive nutrition drink flavor list. And early John Smith had some neurodivergence around food and only drank nutrition shakes. But he liked the flavors of different foods. So Sunny helped him develop more varied and tastier flavors. "Oh, so that's why Survey shakes are so much better than Unity's," I said. "Yep." We drank our shakes in silence until the printer chimed. Lulu pulled out solid food, and we both ate heartily. I was surprised how hungry I was. "Being in the gel tank can do that to you," Lulu said. "It's tough on the bots, too. I mean, they help me at higher G, but then I have to eat like I'm eating for 20 afterwards." "Makes sense," I said. "After we finish this, we should sleep. We can actually use the bunk since we're still pulling G, thankfully." Suddenly, feeling tired, I was grateful for that. When I finally put my head down on the bunk after dinner, I fell right to sleep. A few days later, after several 10G bursts, we were both getting really tired of it. Neither of us talked the last couple of times. We just showered, ate, and fell asleep. Finally, Lulu said, "Excellent, the last one." I sighed in relief as I put on my suit and got in the tank. The G-force hit me and I passed out. I woke to the sound of Lulu shouting, "Fuck!" Blinking, I moved the cover and took off my breather, and the tank began to drain. "What?" I asked. "We almost literally ran into Fleet," she replied. I looked at the screens to see not 1, but 3 Unity Fleet ships surrounding us. "Computer, full jump to emergency pickup point. Full jump will damage jump engine at destination. Do you still wish to proceed?" "Yes, damn it, jump now!" Lulu shouted at the computer, then mumbled, "Fucking subsentient computer." "Commencing jump," the computer said. Suddenly the screen was dark, with just a small smattering of stars. I felt myself lift in the tank since we were no longer accelerating. A vacuum pump started sucking in the last of the gel, and before I could move the cover, something landed on my shoulder. The demon blinked out, and suddenly I was standing on the bridge of a survey ship. "Welcome back, Lulu, and welcome aboard, Jenny Fraser of the First Dan," said the AI. "Wow, Sonny, that was quick," Lulu said. "We were in the neighborhood," said Sun Tzu. "That's good, since we were being chased by Fleet." "Not anymore, and I took care of the demon already. I destroyed it before we jumped," Sun Tzu said. Lulu nodded. "Wait, what?" I said, "My sword was on there." "Masashi will make you a new one," Lulu said with a shrug. "But that was my first dance sword. The Admiral gave it to me." There were steps behind me. "The Admiral will be giving you another one, Jenny Fraser of the First Dan." I turned to see a nondescript man holding a long, slightly curved package wrapped in black and red silk. "I am John Smith, the head librarian. I was told to give you this by the Admiral, and to say that you've been ordered to return immediately to Musashi. A cruiser will be here in a few days for you." John Smith bowed and held up the sword on his palms for me. Ignoring the fact that I was dripping gel on the floor of the bridge, I took the package in my hands and unwrapped it. When I saw the sword in a black sheath with Chinese lettering in red and gold emerge from the silk, I shook so hard I nearly dropped it. "This is the Admiral's sword," I whispered. "Why?" John Smith gave a grin. The Admiral has chosen you for his apprentice. I stared at the man in disbelief. Holy shit, said Lulu, laughing. I knew it! Part 2. Geneva Colony. Chapter 19. Giannis. Kai, you don't need to stay here, you know. You should go to college, travel, have a partner or whatever. The younger man sighed, helped me from the toilet, pulled up my pants, and put me back into my chair. Oh, stuff it, Giannis. We've had this conversation 1,000,000 times, and my answer is always the same. I'm not ambitious, I don't like cities, and I'm happy here. So stop nagging me, okay? He adjusted the straps and put my right hand on the joystick. Everything all right? Yes, fine, I said, then continued. But I am your older brother, Kai. I'm supposed to worry about you to the level of being a pain in the ass. Don't let Oma hear you talking like that, Kai said. I'll risk the Oma glare. I moved the air chair with the joystick from the bathroom to the open kitchen and living room. Una was making breakfast with the littlest Nico attached to her leg, sucking his thumb. Mika and Arya, the older twins, were already sitting at the table, deep into their tablets. I mean it, Kai. You should have a life outside of the Sherborne Valley, I said, quietly as we crossed the living room. Kai sighed. Just drop it, okay? He said, then louder. Morning, Rugrats. The two at the table looked up from their tablets and rolled their eyes. Morning, Uncle Kai, they said in unison. You two realize that's kind of creepy, right? Kai said as he sat at the table. They rolled their eyes again and went back to their tablets. He sighed. They're twins, said Una, chuckling as she came over with coffee for us. What do you expect? Half the time they're in their own little world. Mika looked at Arya and grinned as if they were sharing some telepathic joke. Unlike a lot of other people, I could always tell them apart. They were 6 years old and very precocious. I was pretty sure that they were both going to be some sort of scientist when they grew up, but what type of scientist changed daily. They were both good at math, which I taught them during their homeschool days, but only Mika was showing some aptitude for programming. Arya, on the other hand, couldn't get enough of mixing things together to see what happened. I wanted to build a chemistry lab for her, but Una insisted she was too young. Kai and I made plans anyway. In a few years, we'd get it built. Una went back to the stove to finish cooking, and Nico finally seemed to notice I was there. I tapped the brake control, the chair gently set itself on the floor and locked the wheels. The 2-year-old toddled over to the chair and climbed up as carefully as he could manage, then snuggled on my lap. His eyes were red-rimmed. It looked like it had been a rough morning. Morning, Uncle Yana. Good morning, Mikali. Are you tired this morning? I asked, as I used my left arm to give him a gentle pat. Yeah, he said and snuggled deeper into my shoulder. He couldn't find his George this morning when he got up. Took us a while to find him. For some reason, he was out in the barn, so Lena had to wash him, Una said. Oh no, I said to Nico. How horrible. Well, don't worry, Nico Lee. You'll have your George back soon. The toddler nodded, put his thumb back in his mouth, and stayed snuggled on my lap. I had my coffee in its holder longingly, but really didn't want to move Nico. It looked like he was starting to fall asleep. I sighed. Uh-oh, looks like you've become a toddler couch, said Kai. He stood up, came around, tapped the button on the chair for the grip arm, and put my coffee bottle in the grippers. I blinked to activate my eye controls and maneuvered the coffee bottle into a position where I could reach the straw. Thanks, I said, and Kai sat back down. I don't mind being toddler couch, though. He's not afraid of me or the chair, and that's a good thing. And if it makes him feel better after losing his George, well. And it doesn't hurt he thinks you're the font of all wisdom, said Kai. Nico's a very smart boy, I said, smiling. Una laughed. Lean out with the cows again? I asked. Una put a tray of croissants in the oven, then came over with her own coffee. She nodded. Yeah, Snowdrop and Bessie are both about ready to pop, and she wants to make sure they're still doing okay. The genetic enhancements seem to be working on the mothers, but she's worried that the newest adaptations in the calves won't be viable. I keep telling her that milch cow genetics have been stable for nearly 200 years on Schweitz, but, well, she has to watch with her own eyes. What did they add this time? George DNA to help the cows digest the grasses easier, although I'm not sure why, since our cows seem to handle both the native and the hybrid grasses fairly well. Yeah, but the manure, said Kai, wrinkling his nose. You've smelled that stuff. They could probably light New Zurich with the methane from one cow. Una laughed. True enough. We all sat sipping our coffee as the twins read on their tablets and Nico fell asleep in my lap. After a while, the bell in the oven went off. Help me get out the rest of the breakfast things, Kai? Una asked. Kai got up and brought out the plates, silverware, jam, and bowls for muesli. Una opened the oven, took out the pan, and put the croissants in a basket. She then got out the butter, cheese, and milk, putting everything on the table. Kai put out a couple of containers of our own farm-grown muesli, which I liked, as the adapted wheat and oats were much better than anything from the printer. Earth wheat wasn't quite the same. Where's Mom and Dad? Kai asked. They left early for Muellerbergen. They were going to stop in New Zurich on the way to do some shopping. Something about some special shoes they like. They said, and I quote, "We're going to the mountains for a while, not sure when we'll be back, but don't worry about us." Mom gave me the look when I asked for specifics. I chuckled. Our parents took their retirement seriously. Do they give women a special class in that look? I asked. Una laughed. No, I think it's just something that you just know how to do after you turn 80. Lena came in then, divested herself of her coat and hat, then went over to kiss Una. She made herself a coffee and sat at the table. Mika, Arya, time to put those away now, she said. The kids did as they were told, as Una brought out the boiled eggs and sausage. Want me to take him? Lena asked as she saw Nico in my lap. I shook my head. Nah, let him sleep. Put my breakfast on my tray, and that should work. The arm seems to be behaving since the last treatment and physical therapy, so I'm sure I can manage breakfast. You're a big softy, she said, as she set up the tray on my chair and gave me a plate with a buttered and jammed croissant, a boiled egg, and sausage. She then sat and made her own plate. Thanks, I said, and carefully grabbed the croissant. We were all quiet as we dug into breakfast. After breakfast, Lena brought back the errant George plushie, picked up Nico off my lap, and put him in his room to finish his nap. Una took Mika and Arya into the village for their thrice-weekly sports practice. By lunchtime, Kai, Nico, and I were the only ones in the house. I was in the living room, checking on our financial program, going over our latest returns. The bank accounts were still accruing cash, as they had been for the last 15 years, and our investments were doing well, but it seemed to be performing almost too well lately. As I looked over our investment accounts, I saw some new companies in the portfolio that I didn't recognize. Kai, did you add some new companies to the portfolio recently? I asked, as he made our lunch and more coffee. No, not for a while now. Why? I think the program added some new ones, I said. Kai stopped what he was doing and came over, looking over my shoulder at my tablet screen. What in the world? What are all those companies? Looks like this has been happening for a few years now, Kai. I haven't noticed because I assumed you just added new companies as you heard about them. No, I haven't added anything new for the last couple of years since our portfolio was pretty stable, Kai said. You did program it to learn, though, right? I nodded. Yeah, I did. I'll review the coding to find out what's been happening and correlate that with what we're getting from off-planet. We've seemed to have a bump a couple of years ago, then it settled down again. Strange, though, our other colony holdings didn't get hit in the recession after all that happened at Unity Hub. We actually seem to do better somehow. Should we be worried? I mean, we're just skirting legality here. I think we're still okay, but I'll double-check, I replied. Noise came from Nico's bedroom. Looks like Nico's up. I'll be back. Kai went to take care of Nico as I started looking at the program's code. As I reviewed the current version, something didn't feel right. But what that was, I didn't know. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revginapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.